There is probably a fan somewhere near you right now. Maybe it's sitting on the floor. Maybe it's hanging from the ceiling. Maybe it's been running for so long that you don't even notice the sound anymore. You turn it on, it spins. The air moves, and that's it. A fan feels so harmless that most of us don't even think about it as a machine capable of hurting us. But under the right circumstances, a fan can actually become dangerous. Not because the blades suddenly decide to attack you, not because the fan itself is poisonous, and not because sleeping with a fan on is secretly going to kill you. The real danger is much more ordinary, and that's what makes it interesting. Because the things that can turn a fan into a serious hazard are often the exact things we stop paying attention to. But there's something much stranger about a fan. It can make you feel cooler without actually making the room colder. And to understand why that happens, we need to understand something first. Your body is constantly producing heat, even when you're sitting completely still, even when you're doing absolutely nothing. Your heart is beating, your brain is working, your cells are carrying out thousands of chemical reactions, and almost all of that activity produces heat. Your body is basically a furnace that never switches off, and if that heat couldn't escape, you'd eventually overheat. Here's something most people get slightly wrong. Sweating doesn't cool you simply because there's water sitting on your skin. The cooling happens when that water evaporates. And evaporation requires energy. Where does that energy come from? Your body. When sweat sitting on your skin changes from liquid water into water vapor, it takes heat with it. Your body loses heat, your skin cools down, and you feel better. It's actually an incredible system. Your body basically creates its own cooling fluid. The problem is, sometimes that sweat doesn't evaporate very efficiently. And that's where your fan enters the story. When you're sitting in front of a fan, you might think, the fan is blowing cold air onto me. But that's not really what's happening. The fan is mostly moving air around. And that moving air can increase the rate at which heat leaves your skin. It can also help sweat evaporate. Imagine you've just stepped out of a shower. You're covered in water. Now stand in front of a fan. You immediately feel colder. Did the fan remove all the water from your skin? No. It accelerated evaporation, and your body supplied the energy needed for that evaporation. That's why a fan can make you feel dramatically cooler, even though the room itself hasn't changed very much. Your body is losing heat faster. But now we have to introduce another character into the story: humidity. Because the amount of moisture already in the air can completely change how effective sweating is. Imagine the air around you is very dry. There's plenty of room for more water vapor. Your sweat evaporates relatively easily. Now imagine the air is already packed with moisture. The air has less capacity to accept additional water vapor. Your sweat doesn't evaporate as efficiently, and suddenly, you can be drenched in sweat without actually getting much cooling from it. This is one reason humid heat can feel absolutely brutal. You're sweating. You're doing everything your body normally does to cool itself, but the cooling system isn't working as efficiently, and that's when your body has to work harder. When your body detects that it's getting too warm, it doesn't just sit there and accept it. Your brain has a temperature control system. One important part of that system is the hypothalamus. Think of it as one of the body's thermostats. When your internal temperature starts rising, your body begins making adjustments. Blood vessels near the skin can widen. More blood can flow toward the surface. That allows more heat to move from your core toward your skin. And then you sweat. Your body is essentially saying, we need to get rid of heat. But there's a limit. If the environment is too hot, or the humidity is too high, or you're losing too much water, your cooling system can struggle to keep up. And that's when heat illness becomes a real concern. Now we're getting to the interesting part. A fan can be incredibly useful in hot conditions. Moving air across your skin can increase evaporation and help you lose heat. But there is a fundamental problem. The fan isn't creating cold air. It's just moving the air that's already there. A fan can move that cooler air across your body. Heat can move from your skin into the surrounding air. That's helpful. But now imagine the surrounding air gets extremely hot. Eventually, the temperature difference between your skin and the air becomes much smaller. And if the air becomes hotter than your skin, something strange can happen. The air you're blowing across your body isn't necessarily taking heat away anymore. It can actually transfer heat toward your body. That's the twist. Your fan doesn't know what temperature you are. It doesn't know whether you're comfortable. It doesn't know whether you're dehydrated. It doesn't know whether the room is 25 degrees or 40 degrees. It simply moves air. And that's why the idea that a fan always cools you down is incomplete. A fan can increase heat loss from the body under many conditions, but the benefit depends on the surrounding environment. Temperature matters. Humidity matters. Whether you're sweating matters. How much fluid you've lost matters. And how extreme the heat is matters. Your body isn't being cooled by the fan itself. It's using the moving air to make its own cooling mechanisms work more effectively. This is where things get interesting. A fan can make you feel much cooler without necessarily bringing your core temperature back to a safe level. The breeze cools your skin, and that feels like relief. But underneath that feeling, your body may still be struggling with the heat. And there's another problem. If you're sweating heavily, you're losing water. Lose too much, and your body becomes less effective at cooling itself. So you can end up feeling better because of the breeze, while your body is still fighting to get rid of heat. And that's the dangerous illusion. The fan can make you feel comfortable without actually solving the heat problem. One of the frightening things about heat illness is that you don't necessarily feel like you're in immediate danger. You might simply feel tired. You might have a headache. You might feel dizzy. You might feel unusually weak. You might become nauseous. And because the environment is familiar, you might tell yourself, I just need to sit down. But as heat illness progresses, things can become much more serious. Confusion can develop. Coordination can deteriorate. A person can lose consciousness. And in severe heat stroke, the body's temperature regulation system can begin to fail. This is a medical emergency. At that point, the goal isn't to make the person feel comfortable. It's to get them cooled down and obtain emergency medical care. So, can a fan kill you? A normal household fan isn't a secret killer. For ordinary use, fans are generally a perfectly reasonable way to make yourself more comfortable. The interesting point is not, fans are dangerous. It's this. A fan can make you feel cooler without necessarily lowering the temperature of the room or guaranteeing that your core body temperature is safe. There are also circumstances in which moving air can become less helpful or even increase heat gain, particularly when the surrounding air is extremely hot. That's why you shouldn't think of a fan as a universal solution to dangerous heat. If the environment itself is dangerously hot, you need a genuinely cooler environment whenever possible. Shade, air conditioning, cooler indoor spaces, hydration, rest, and appropriate cooling measures. The fan can be part of the solution. It isn't the entire solution. Your body has several ways of getting rid of heat. Your blood moves it toward your skin. You sweat, and when that sweat evaporates, it takes heat with it. A fan simply helps that process happen faster. You feel the breeze, you feel cooler, but underneath that feeling, your body is still doing the work. The fan doesn't actually make the heat disappear. It simply helps your body lose heat faster. And that's why a simple breeze can feel so powerful. But there's a catch. When the environment becomes extremely hot, the rules start to change. And eventually, the same breeze that felt refreshing may no longer be enough to keep your body cool. So the next time you turn on a fan, remember what it's actually doing. It isn't creating cold, it's helping your body get rid of heat. But that only works while your environment allows it. When the air becomes dangerously hot, the breeze may no longer be enough. And that's the strange truth about a fan. It can make you feel cooler without necessarily making your body cooler. And sometimes, that difference can be deadly.